Hey everybody, welcome to the weekly PowerNation live stream where they have made the mistake this week of giving me the reins to take you guys from the front to the back of Leadfoot since we just put the full build out today. I think it's going to be pretty exciting if you guys feel like going to watch it, but if you feel like getting hands-on with it, frankly, we're going to go ahead and just take you guys through top to bottom, front to back, everything it took to get this thing put together.
Yeah, you know the deal. It's Friday, so we go live. We're going to talk about their latest project to drop, and if you have any questions, make sure you start putting them in the comments of this live right now. We're going to go through and answer them towards the end. But I mean, first off, yeah, this thing, it was so crazy to see this thing come in from what it originally was to what you guys finished with. You basically built like an off-road monster out of it, because when this thing came in, it was basically a stock truck, right?
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, originally this thing came in with its original 300 inline six. It was bone stock, no upgrades, 5-speed behind it, 4-wheel drive. Just a basic run-of-the-mill, I guess what a lot of people would call a grandpa truck, right? Because it was still had all the stock components on it with zero modifications at all. Obviously, it's not unmodified anymore. But yeah, the goal was to go for something a little old school. We wanted it to have that 80s, 90s feeling to it. That's why, obviously, all the chrome, the roll bar in the bed, the KC lights with that classic smiley face design on the cover. I mean, the end goal was a truck that is a ton of fun, cool to look at, and really just something that you can keep in your stable for when you need to go and have some fun.
Yeah, this is the weekend warrior, right? Like this is like you said, a truck for fun. It's designed to go beat on it with your buddies on the weekend or whatever, have some fun with it, break it, fix it, repeat, and tool it around. So now I think it looks pretty cool, and it's kind of fun because the color is perfect, because you guys kind of took some inspiration from Bigfoot, right? Like that was kind of that's the large scale version of it. This is like the achievable version for the everyday guy.
It is. And anybody who knows the history of Bigfoot knows that it started out just like this. It was a truck that a guy did a few modifications on and said, well, what if I did this and maybe tried that? And it just kind of snowballed into the Bigfoot we all know and love today. And this being a short bed Ford, it's nothing special, but being a blue Ford, obviously Bigfoot's first thing that came to mind. So we figured this would be a good time to kind of do a tribute to that. Now, obviously this isn't a monster truck and it probably never will be, but we wanted to build something that, in the spirit of Bigfoot, still had room to be improved upon, right? So we still have the original traction beam axle in the front. We've still got a ton of room to go up in lift size, tire size. I mean, Frankie, this engine alone, there's a ton of room there, because even though it's already built, you guys have a turbo kit for it if we felt like going that far.
Yeah, so I think everything on this is pretty well scalable. And I'm going to disagree with you that single cab short bed's kind of desirable. You said it wasn't, but these are kind of desirable trucks, and they're coming back. So, I mean, if you can get a clean one like this, then you're doing good. Like this thing had no rust on it or anything when it came, and I remember looking at it, was like pleasantly surprised with that. But yeah, let's just start going through it, because like you guys did a ton of work. There's a ton of cool suspension upgrades, things like that. So let's just start with the front axle and work our way back. What'd you guys do to obviously raise it up, but there's a lot more to it than that. So start walking us through it.
Yeah, so the lift kit itself is a BDS 6-inch kit. It's just front to back, a full 6 inches of lift, maintaining the original IFS setup on this front axle and leaf springs in the rear. Now, the front axle itself is not fully stock. It is the original beams, but we did put a Dana 50 third member in there, and that allowed us to have an extra 1/2 inch of ring gear size and allowed us to do an easy re-gear while we were already under there getting our hands into it.
So what is it now?
So right now it's still running a Dana 44 IFS beam with a Dana 50 IFS third member and a 410 gear.
410.
And then of course we've got that 410 matched in the rear, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. So 6-inch lift, we've got a pretty robust upgrade done with the 44. Custom drive shafts, obviously, to get everything connected.
Yeah.
Sitting above that axle actually is one of the best gifts I've ever gotten from you guys, and that is this 460. Now, I know you guys did a ton of work on this in several stages. I mean, you want to just tell the audience like what it took to get this thing to here?
Yeah, so this was kind of like one of those fun stage builds, and it honestly started out as like a budget build. This was the idea. We get requests all the time. People want diesel level torque at diesel level RPM, but in a gas engine. So it's like, okay, how do you do that? Well, a lot of the OE engineering is set up to have good responsive torque at low RPM. And so basically for the Ford crowd, we did a big block Ford, but this is a recipe that you could do to anything. We basically took a bone stock big block Ford and we showed you everything that it takes to put a turbo on it. And we did it, not in my opinion, super budget style, stock heads, stock pistons, everything. All we did was open up the ring gap. We did put a 4-barrel intake manifold on it just because it's way easier to run it with a little more modern carburetor and stuff like that. But we actually used a set of EFI heads, so it was a stock EFI engine. We used adapters to put a carburetor on it. We did a blow-through carburetor conversion to one of our 750 QFTs, and we boosted the thing with a turbo, and it made insane amounts of torque. It made over 700 pound-feet on like 8 or 9 PSI, and it was at that level, the engine would live forever, right? So we did that version, then we brought it back. We just put basically some durability parts into it. I think we put a hydraulic roller cam in it, and we did a forged rod and a forged icon piston, and that just gave us a little more safety on the boosted side, basically running boost with it. It gave us a little bit of room, so we were able to push it a little bit harder, got it close to 800 pound-feet, made quite a bit more power with a different manifold in the cam and stuff. And then we came to this final version because we knew you guys were going to put this in a truck, right? So we talked it out. We're like, what do you guys want? What do you guys need? We still wanted good torque, but for packaging and ease, we wanted naturally aspirated. So we basically took it to the next naturally aspirated stage. So this has a 227, 241 at 50 hydraulic roller cam on a 107, relatively tight load set up for low RPM. It's 472 cubic inches, but we didn't go crazy with the cam because this is still a low RPM, relatively high torque, big block. We have a set of Edelbrock Performer heads and matching dual plane intake, and then it's topped off with a Phytech Go EFI system. It's good for 1,200 horse if you wanted to run it, something that big. And it's got a nice, easy CVF serpentine front drive on it with everything you guys need as far as power steering and alternator and stuff like that. And it made really good power. This engine made 533 horsepower and made 565 pound-feet. So it did all that below basically like 6,000 RPM. So this thing, it turned into basically a perfect engine for this truck. I mean, it's relatively low compression. You won't hurt it. It's I think it's 10.5 to 1. 10.59 to 1, so it's very safe for pump gas and stuff like that. This is something that you could beat on all day long. You want to put nitrous on it, it can take it. And with a few parts changes, you could absolutely switch it back, put a turbo on it, and this thing will hold massive amounts of power if you want it to. But yeah, I mean, you drove it. I didn't drive it, but it sounded like it ran really good from what I heard when you guys took it out and beat on it.
It does. It runs amazing, and there was no shortage of beating on this thing. It took every bump, every slam on the throttle, every clutch dump. It did it all just fine. I mean, this engine has not made one single complaint about living under this hood.
Yeah, and I mean, it's crazy to me, and I mean, that's not crazy, but I think it's super cool how easily this fits in there because you guys basically, I think you had to build mounts and stuff and figure out headers, but that's normal stuff. But like, other than that, this thing drops in, like it's got the truck has plenty of space for it. So what did you have to do to make this fit other than, like talk us through that, like the regular stuff, the crazy fab you had to do, anything like that?
Right, so like you mentioned, we've got some custom motor mounts in here, and that was, there is off-the-shelf options for that, but we wanted to make sure that with the power level we're running that, even if we did decide to go up, that this thing wasn't going to be anything to worry about. We knew this engine was going to stay nice and slapped in place where it's supposed to be. Another thing, though, about getting this in here is we had a ton of room still to the front of the engine, and that's what allowed us to run this diesel radiator. This is actually for a 7.3 diesel. It bolted into the original gas core support just fine. And as you can see, even with a mechanical fan on the front, we still have a ton of clearance there with this big block. Now, we did end up, you'll see the mounts are back off of that front cross member, so we did end up moving it back a little bit. But even without that, if we would have ran that fan without an extension on there, if we had a belt drive that would have allowed it, then we still would have had plenty of room for the radiator and everything else that went in.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan, and Pat is too, of mechanical fans on engines. Being engine guys, you're like, what is the thing that I can put on here that A, is going to flow more than enough air? Mechanical fans flow an insane amount of air, and if they're on, they work. If the engine is running, it's moving air, right? So for keeping stuff cool, you know, that we're huge fans of that. And diesel stuff works so good because it is set, diesels are set to run at load for extended period of time. So like intercoolers, charge air coolers, and radiators, that's a perfect fit. And that's just lucky that it kind of fit. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know you guys got that to basically drop in on this thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. It bolted right in a lot better than I would have expected because, you know, normally you think diesel parts in a gas engine bay, that's probably not going to work. But in this case, it ended up being perfect.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, everything else, we reused the original battery tray, original heater box is still in here.
Nice.
I mean, there wasn't.
Good too. I mean,
it does, and there wasn't a whole lot to actually remove. I mean, you'll see the inner fenders. Obviously, we left those out, and that's just because I like having a little bit of room to get in here if I need to, you know, keep working on this thing for whatever reason.
Yeah, especially putting headers on it or something like that.
Yeah, the headers were probably the hardest thing to fit out of everything, but you know that's not an uncommon thing, especially when you're doing a big block swap. You know you're going to be taking up a ton of room trying to get your exhaust out of the engine bay.
Yeah, and I mean, these are shorty headers which work fine, especially if you got like tight clearance, like, you know, depending, like especially with drive shafts in the way and stuff like that, it's going to be hard to get a long tube to fit, especially on like whatever side of the drive, you know, this side where the drive shaft is and stuff, and you got steering columns, all kinds of crazy stuff happening. Like having a long tube that fits and clears around that, it's a struggle. So shorts, I think, were the way to go.
Oh yeah, and we actually, just to make sure we made the right choice in headers, we actually had 4 different sets in here. We had long tubes, shorties, block huggers.
Yeah.
I mean, we tried everything we could to make sure we had the best fit possible, and that's one of those things that no matter what, you're probably going to run into some fitment issues with your exhaust, so be ready to make some cuts.
Yeah, and we always tell you guys, like, what header should we run? It's like, what's the biggest header you can fit? That's the header you should run.
Whatever is going to allow the most breathing for the engine.
Yeah, so, yeah, man, it's okay. So transmission-wise, what are you running for a transmission?
Now, transmission, so we've got, obviously this thing, like I said, was a manual when we got it, so I wanted to keep it that way. And, you know, with this 460, I'm sure, you know, Frankie, you've probably noticed there's not a ton of options out there for the 385 series big block as far as, you know, adapter bell housings and stuff like that.
Not as many as you would think, yeah. Kind of weird.
Like, you got a ton of automatic options, but with manuals, it's a little more difficult, especially if you're trying to upgrade to something modern like this Tremec TR4050 that we've got in here. Now, the reason with the TR4050 is because it has a granny first gear. So, you know, for crawling and stuff like that, it's always good to have.
Yeah.
That also, in 4-low in first gear, this thing gives us a final gear reduction, I want to say, of about a 46 or a 47 to 1. So, realistically, you could comfortably get out and walk next to this thing in 4-low and just let it walk itself.
That's cool.
But again, with that, you know, it's got the granny gear, but on the opposite end, it has a really good overdrive. So if, you know, you do feel like bumping your way down the highway in this thing, then you can do that. You know, it's not going to be comfortable, but you'll get there. Yeah, it wasn't the easiest adaptation in the world. There was some things, you know, we got an adapter kit with it, but we had to make some parts of our own to, you know, get a little bit of extra space in there. But
kind of a given,
Yeah, that's part of building. You know, you never know what you're going to run into, and you got to be prepared for just about anything.
Yeah, that's hot rodding, man. But okay, so then divorce transfer case.
Divorce transfer case, yeah. So we ended up with a 2-wheel drive 4050, which like, okay, well, that's obviously not ideal for an off-road truck, but that also gives us an opportunity to do something a little bit different and run a divorce transfer case. Now, in hindsight, a divorce setup may not be your best bet for a short bed truck, but that's, you know, that's just something you learn as you go along. Now, the transfer case itself, it's an NP205, so we know we've got nothing to worry about there. It's going to take every bit of power this engine can push out and not have anything to worry about at the end of the day.
Yeah, cool, okay. So I think we got covered basically most of the front. Let's
I would hope so. And then I guess if we want to move inside on our way back, we've got a whole lot of not there, as you guys will probably notice. And, you know, there's a reason for that. Because when we got down to the point where we were about ready to fire this thing up and start driving it, you know, we didn't want to keep waiting. And it's an off-road truck, right? So we decided to save a little time and left a few of the interior parts out. They're still sitting on a pallet. We still have them, and they will get put back in eventually. But for what this thing is and what we've done with it, we didn't need any of that. Plus, it's weight savings.
It's a mud truck. Like
exactly.
Especially if the parts are nice, you might want to take them out and just keep them nice because you don't want to get them destroyed or muddy or whatever. So I totally understand that. Like, yeah, leaving as much out as you can, just because you can always put it back later. But if it's a mud truck and you're going to go out and take it, you know, and drive it through the woods and crap, then you probably want to take all that out and just protect it. So yeah, that's cool.
And of course, well, with the door panels, we actually, with the cage here, don't have room. So if we ever want to put door panels on here, we would actually end up doing a custom set. But once again, that is something further down the road if we ever get there.
Yeah, but these are probably a lot more important than door panels.
Yes, exactly. And that was one of the things we wanted to make sure of is no matter what we did with this truck, we knew it was going to have a ton of power and we knew it was going to have a ton of rowdy energy in the low end. So we wanted to make sure it was going to be safe, hence the 3-inch harnesses and the cage.
Yeah, I mean, roll bars and stuff like this is sometimes overlooked, but you should have one. It's really important. So
yeah.
I'm all for that. So yeah, so you got your shifter set up, all that stuff. Basically, that you get that as a kit with the transmission, or was that separate and you had to build it?
So the shifter came with it. The transfer case shifter, that is actually from Behemoth Drivetrain.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's one of their shifters. Those things are super nice. We've got a few more of them out there that we're going to be using later on this year, and a few other things if you guys want to stick around and see that. Yeah, the shifters, most of the stuff for the transmission actually did come with it. Like I said, there was one spacer plate we had to cut ourselves, but once again, that just gets into, once you start making your measurements and actually setting everything up, you got to be ready to adjust for just about anything.
Yeah, pretty much. It's been, especially in engine building and cars too, it's the exact same. As people don't realize how much fitment goes into stuff. Like, yes, there are kits that are made specifically and those go together really well, but when you start doing like custom stuff or even like universal stuff, making universal parts work for your application, there's always some kind of fitment or something like that you have to do. It's just part of it, and that's just what we do. That's part of what we do. That's why we test fit stuff so much, is because you want to make sure it fits before you paint it and then go to final assemble it, whether it's an engine or a transfer case setup or whatever. Like, it's just part of it. You test it, you make sure it fits, you make it fit if you need to, and then you can put it together for real. So yeah, this is cool. I kind of want to drive it now. Before I was like, I saw you guys driving around the parking lot and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And now I'm starting to, as I hear more about it, I'm wanting more and more to take it for a spin. So maybe after this, I'll go take it out.
Well, I mean, it's
a
little bit.
Still in it?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Keys are always in it. It's a little bit of a tight fit with the cage in there. We do have the seat a little far forward, but if you can squeeze your knees up around your shoulders enough to hit those pedals, be my guest.
Yeah, I am pretty tall, but if I can fit in a go-kart, I could probably fit in this. So
I think you can make it work.
That's cool. Okay, so I see a fuel cell, so no stock fuel tank.
No,
just went straight for a fuel cell.
Yeah, it was originally EFI, so we could have used that tank, but of course running the Phytech setup, having their universal pump, and obviously the ability to utilize a fuel tank, we want to go ahead and do that. We know that the fuel tank has baffles in there, so obviously off-roading, that's super important to help prevent fuel slosh.
Yeah.
Plus, having it in the bed, we've got a ton of access to get in to install it, do any maintenance work we need to do. Filling it up gets a little bit interesting because someone forgot to order a filler neck, and so now you got to climb up in there to do that. But
okay.
I mean, with the amount of time you spend driving it, usually you're just going to burn a tank, put it back on the trailer, and go about your day.
You can always have fuel jugs too, but
exactly.
And yeah, I mean, like for capacity and also flow, I mean, like a stock 300 setup for this year is not going to flow enough for that. You'd have to upgrade it anyways. So this is probably a much easier option for as far as like getting it in, getting a pump that will do it, and like, I mean, even down to like, you're talking about baffling, but also like rollover protection. If you were to roll it, you want something that's not going to dump all the fuel on the ground and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
well,
yeah.
Plus, having it in the bed, of course, it's not a major concern, but there is always having a fuel tank underneath that little bit of worry in the back of your head is like, well, am I going to puncture this on a rock or, a stick, anything like that. So
I didn't even think of that.
It's a little bit of a safety thing as well.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the fuel cell is protected by the massive chrome roll bar that just had to be there for style's sake, because nothing to me screams 90s mud truck more than a giant chrome roll bar.
Let's see. Faux guy and this one so far. I'm seeing a
we're
theme
just
of
starting to get a trend
roll bars.
going
Yeah,
here.
is every truck going to have one? I think that's cool.
I mean, if it was up to me.
Yeah, I think that's cool. But yeah, man. Okay, so and then rear end. Let's talk about that because that's kind of
the rear axle,
important.
of course, that was a big thing for us, putting the 530 horsepower out of that thing all the way to the ground. We needed something that was going to handle that. So we got a hold of the guys over at Quick Performance, and they put together a full custom 9-inch setup for us with the ProFab housing, the 410 gears that we needed. It's got disc brakes on the outside. I mean, as far as rear axles go, there's really not a whole lot better that you can get for something like this. Yeah. And what's nice about the Quick rear ends is, you can order them bare like we did with this one. So there was no leaf spring perches, no shock tabs.
So
like it was all fit it and build it yourself. So
that's sometimes nicer because especially when you're doing stuff like this, it's like you got to get it right, located perfectly, and then you can just build your mounts and stuff. You don't have to I mean, sometimes you just have to, like, if they come with mounts, you feel bad because you got to cut them off to do your own, you
Right.
know, especially with like lifted stuff. You know, there's could be set up for something with a lot lower, and you got to set pinion angle and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes it's just an easier option to get a bare axle
Right.
and set it up. Yeah.
Well, and then it also gives the opportunity, like we did on that axle, where you can weld on tabs and stuff for mounting like brake lines and
Yeah.
wires and stuff you got to do. So really,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of extra work to do a bare axle, but to me, it gives you a lot more freedom to build the way that you want to have it looking and performing, you know, the way that you need.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's even stuff like dumb things that you don't think about till later, like strap points. If you can
Yeah.
put like strap hooks on there, it's something you don't think about till you're laying underneath the truck or the car on the trailer, and you're like, where the heck am I going to put these axle straps? And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, if I just had a hook here, it could just
And
be
trying to
done,
figure
you
out how
know?
to tie it down without smashing your brake lines.
Yeah, all that stuff. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so that has the same gear as the front, so it's a 410 as well.
Yep,
Okay.
410 front and rear. You know, we didn't want to go too crazy with it. Obviously, there's options out there. Could have 456, 538, could have made this thing crawl way more than it does.
Yeah.
But I still like to try and keep things at least with a little bit of an ability to be driven on the road, just in case. Like, not to say I would ever want to drive this thing long distances, because it rides exactly like you would expect an old truck that looks like this to.
You're not going to drive it to California,
Oh, God, no.
but yeah, I mean, like if you have to go down the street to get gas or something like that, then yeah, like you still want to be able to keep up with traffic and not have to like have this thing screaming at 6,000 RPMs
Exactly.
just to go 45 or 50. So
Yeah, and
I feel
once
you.
again, no, that goes back to the reasoning behind our TR4050. You know, it's got a good overdrive in it, so at highway speeds, it's not, you know, with 410s, we're still going to be up there in the RPMs, but it's not going to be ridiculous.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, dude, I think this is all cool. I didn't know. I should have probably paid more attention when you guys were building it, but we're doing our own stuff, but like I didn't know all this cool stuff about it. So that's actually cool to dive in with you and like talk about the bits and pieces. That's the stuff that sometimes people don't see or we don't get to show because we just don't have time. That's why these are cool, because we can kind of go through it and talk about it more and get more in depth with it and stuff. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, like we said before, make sure you're putting them in the comment section of the live, and we're going to go through and answer them here pretty shortly. But if you have anything about the truck, the project, the show itself, their payoff, I mean, you guys, like I said, you guys on the payoff were basically beating the heck out of this thing, right? I heard about clutch dumps, I heard jumps. I wasn't there, but I heard stories.
So there may or may not have been small amounts of air at certain times. So the test drive for this, you were out there when we were getting it going out in the parking lot and making sure, doing our initial checks. And we actually ran so short on time that day that we didn't have time for a full test drive. So we trailered it up, took it out to Woolies. It made its way to the staging area. When we got down to that first place where if you watch the payoff, you'll see we went and did a whole bunch of donuts. That was the test drive.
Yeah.
I brought it up
like
to
that.
about $3,000 and just let it rip. And it survived. It's still here. Nothing broke. It still sounds great, runs great, and drives just the same.
Yeah.
So
that's the true testament. Is like, obviously for what we do a lot of testing, like on the dyno. Like we could test the engine and stuff, but the vehicle, closest we can get to that is like chassis down stuff. And for something like this, it doesn't even relate to like when you're out on the trail, you're trying to crawl this thing, or you're doing clutch dumps or donuts or whatever the heck you guys do. Yeah, like it's you kind of can't test it until you get there, And the fact that it did all that and you didn't break anything, I mean, that means you did something right. That means everything's set up right and all the parts are built for what it is and that kind of stuff. Which, I mean, we're huge fans of overbuilding stuff. So if you have something that you can go and just lean on absolutely and it still holds up, that I think that's a true testament to the build. So that's pretty cool.
Well, and especially with an off-road truck, I think at the end of the day, dependability and durability needs to be a cornerstone of anything when you're starting your plan. Because like if you're going to do the things we do to this, you're going to want things that aren't going to break. And that's why we've got such heavy duty components in here, because we knew what we were going to do with it, so we planned for that.
Yeah, if you're gonna spend the money, you should do it right the first time. That's, we always stress that too. It's like, this is your hard-earned money. We get that. So like, you should build it for either its final intended purpose, or like you want to build it right. You want to do it right. You want to get all the right parts the first time. You don't want to try and like cheap out on something and then have to break it and then have to go get another one, or get the the good part, or again now you've spent twice the money just because you could have just got it the first time. So totally understand that. And that's, I think that's a huge part. That sometimes people try to like do things a little bit cheaper, which we get. Everybody has budgets and stuff. But if you're going to do something like this, where you're going to be putting it to the stream, you're going to be beating on it, like you just got to do it right the first time.
Right, and it's never a bad idea. You know, you mentioned overbuilding,
Yeah.
and I would say that you could do that while also planning ahead, right? Because if you know further down the road, you're going to be making more upgrades to your vehicle, putting more power out of the engine, you know, whatever the case may be. If you can make upgrades throughout the process that are going to allow you to save some money and some time later on, then the way I look at it, by all means, spend it now, save the time later.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I think we'll get some questions going.
Yeah, got some time for questions here.
Do you want to talk about anything else that you guys are working on? You guys are working on some other cool
We
stuff
do,
too?
yeah, we do.
We can talk about that real quick and then
we've got
do questions.
the Kaiser in here. So if you guys have been watching the show, you probably are aware of our 1969 M715 Kaiser that is here in front of me in a multitude of parts and pieces. So we've got it back in, we're getting going on again, and as you can see, we've got a fully customized core support here. Little sneak peek ahead for you guys. We've got some Baja Design LP6s in here. That's in place of our original turn signals, and those are gonna act as our front spotlights. We've got some Holley retro brights in here for the headlights that gives us that same original sealed beam look, but some modern performance. And then I actually stole some turn signals out of Music City's C10 and did a little bit of cutting and trimming to fit those in here to replace the ones that we took out for the Baja Designs lights. So we've got this going on. Our cameraman Greg actually went ahead and polished this up just yesterday, and this is the original grill with nothing but a little bit of water and some elbow grease to clean it up. That is looking great. And
that's the original color too, right? I heard.
That is, yeah. So he also went ahead and cleaned some of this up, and you can see that this is a lot closer to our original OD green that this thing would have been, and that is what it's gonna look like when we get done. We're gonna go over the entire body with a Scotch-Brite and some water, make the whole thing look like that again, do a little bit of touch-up, you know, make sure we keep that good patina without leaving any exposed metal because, there's quite a bit of it. But that's stuff for later. Now, moving over here to our chassis, you can see that it's still unpainted because we're still doing some work here. We've got a ton of reinforcement done because, as you remember, it had some weak spots in it. And we wanted to make sure to show you guys that if you find an issue like that, it's not an immediate death sentence for your project. You've got options to fix it up and make it safe and reliable once again. Now, moving back, on top of all this reinforcement, we have a brand new rebuilt divorced NP205 that we got from Transfer Case Solutions. That's going to connect up to our original 4-speed and inline 6 that came in this thing because, believe it or not, that old engine still runs like a top.
Yeah, you guys got it running, didn't you?
We did, yeah. So after we brought it in here, we trailered it in, dumped a little bit of brake cleaner down the carburetor, and put a hot battery in there, and it fired right up.
These things they're anvils, you know, which is why I think it's cool that you're putting it back in because, I mean, yes, you could jump straight to, you know, like set the world on fire and put something else in it, but like these things run forever if you take care of them. So that's pretty cool that you're able to get it fired up and you're going to reuse it, you know, maybe at least for a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, and
I mean,
it's
put something bigger in later,
it's not going to get us anywhere fast, but there's a little part of me that really just wants to see how this thing felt and operated when it was still stock and brand new. Because, you know, a lot of the time with modifying, we get into it and we end up with things like Leadfoot, where that is never going to act like it did from the factory ever again.
Yeah.
But something like this, we've got a pretty unique opportunity here with, you know, a still fully functional drivetrain, original from the 1960s, to actually see what this thing would have acted like back then.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to do that. I've never had the opportunity to, at least with one of these. So I think it's gonna be a ton of fun to get it done. Underneath, you can see we're starting to get our new axles fitted. We've got a GM 14 bolt in the rear and a Dana 60 up front out of your 08 Plus Super Duty. All of that is, you know, like I said, nothing special at this point. We're obviously gonna do gears, any reinforcements that are going to be necessary for this thing to do its job. But for the most part, these axles are going to provide the performance that we need just like they are. You know, rebuilt brakes, we've got a fresh set of power stop brakes on the front axle. I mean, it's coming together very slowly, but as you guys at home know, this is a process through and through.
It looks like one. It looks like a monster project to me. I'm like, oh, that'd be something that I'd just lose my head on, you know, but you guys got some cool stuff going on, and are you going to keep it drum brakes in the rear? Are you going to swap it over?
So that's something that's going to depend on what I can find. You know, parts availability is always a factor with this stuff.
That's cool. I mean, they work good.
They do, absolutely.
These things are cool because they're built to haul a lot and stop a lot. So, yeah, I mean, they're not, like you said, they're not supposed to go fast, but they were built for their intended purpose in the day. So there's nothing on it that won't work for what you're trying to do, but as we know from the last 60 years, things have gotten a lot better. So,
oh yeah,
where if you can put some of that on there, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's we are trying to make an effort to throw in some more modern stuff, right? So we're upgrading to a single wire alternator with a higher amperage to handle all the extra stuff we're putting on.
Yeah.
We've got obviously a fuel pressure regulator with a gauge, so that's one more thing we can actually keep track of in this engine. We are actually going to be adding power steering to this, which is something that these were never offered with from the factory as far as I know. We've got a nice PSC system for that, so we're going to be designing a whole new belt drive in here, plus mounting a new PSC steering box, and then all the applicable linkages to connect it down to our Dana 60.
And what are you running for tires?
Tires, we're going to be putting some 37s back on this for right now.
So you're going to want that, You're going to want that power steering.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because with getting rid of the original box, the manual gearbox is going to respond a lot better to not having that power input than a power steering box would. Plus,
it's almost impossible.
I would like to get rid of that big 20-inch oval steering wheel that you needed for leverage.
You don't like that?
It just kind of gets in the way.
You don't like
a
the
little
steering
bit.
wheel in your chest?
I don't like leaning forward a little bit and getting jabbed in the gut. You know.
That's cool.
But yeah, just some common sense upgrades that are going to help bring this thing into a little bit more modern state, including electric fuel pump, better wiring, stuff like that. So it's really just a testament to what you could do when you mix the things you can get in the aftermarket today with what you have that's still original to your vehicle.
Yeah. No, that all sounds super cool. I'm excited to see it come together. I mean, I saw the original truck the stock truck when you guys pulled it in, and then it quickly turned into this, and you guys have made huge progress. So this is awesome. I can't wait to see it finished. I don't know
you and me both.
I don't know if I want to drive it as much as I want to drive that one, but it'd be cool. This is like one of those cool projects that you guys. I mean, not only like once you get it finished the first time, there's like you said, there's tons of stuff you can do to it, so it's something you could keep around and tinker with or whatever. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, I think it's time to field some questions here.
All right. First question, where'd you guys get the stripes for Leadfoot?
So the stripe package was actually on there when we bought the truck, believe it or not. If you look back, go watch the full build that came out today, you'll see that we actually did absolutely nothing to the paint and body on this truck. It looked good enough when it got here. It's got a few dents, dings, and scratches, but that's exactly what you expect from a truck like this. So we figured we would keep that original lapis blue paint job and keep the stripes, because that really just kind of helps to seal in the whole 90s vibe that we were going for, because you don't see stripe packages like that on modern stuff. So yeah, I would say, what do you think? Where would you even go to find stuff like that these days?
Oh man, I don't know. Probably your best bet. I'm going to assume that you probably can't buy some reproduction ones because of what this truck is. So I would say your best bet is probably to go to like a wrap place and have them copy it, something like that.
That's not a bad idea.
Say, hey, here's what I want, and they could probably show them a picture. They could probably measure it up and bring up a rendering or something like that, and then just cut you out like the vinyl package for that. That'd probably be your best bet. I would say if you're trying to get a set. And you might be able to do something cool with it. You got like a custom name for your project or something. Maybe you could put it in that little slot right there. You could do some fun stuff with it, or I'm sure that any good vinyl shop could make you a duplicate of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So to circle back around, they came on the truck, and we have no idea where they came from.
They're original from Ford. What else?
Can you talk a little bit about the LC?
The Land Cruiser?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's skip that one. Why not coilovers on the back end?
All right, so the reason with that is we got this lift kit as a full suspension system, and when you get parts that come together, that means they're designed to work together, and obviously we want to get the most out of them, so we stuck with the leaf springs in the rear. Plus, that, like I mentioned earlier, it's one of those things that gives us even more room to upgrade if we ever did get the opportunity to continue working on this truck. That is one more thing that can be made better later on.
Plus, way easier.
Yeah, and of course the time investment of just keeping leaf springs on a leaf spring truck, you're going to be miles ahead by doing that.
Yeah, I mean, not that coilovers aren't good, and would it be an upgrade? Probably, or it would be, but the amount of time to get something, even if you, I don't even know if you can get a kit. I don't know about that kind of stuff, but like even if you could get a kit, like the amount of time you'd spend, make sure it's set up properly and all that kind of stuff. You'd have you'd have at least another 2 weeks in it, I would think.
Oh yeah.
And that's if you're working on it, 4 hours a day or something like that. So
yeah, it's a lot more time consuming, and like I said, all these parts that we put on here for the suspension, they were all produced together, built by the same company, and designed to work in conjunction with one another at the same time. So we wanted to keep this thing functional.
Yeah.
With the cage behind the seats, how comfortable is it for a tall person?
It's not.
Sorry.
So the cage behind the
Safe for
seat, that's
short
one
people,
thing
not me.
that, you know, we were excited to make sure this thing was safe. We got everything fitted in, and then when we actually got our seats, they fit a little bit tighter than expected. Thankfully, I have a truck at home where the seat is broken, so I'm kind of stuck sitting that close, and I'm not too much of a stranger to it. But anybody taller than me, I'd say good luck. It's the seat could use a little bit of adjustment, I would say.
I'm taller than you, so I guess I'm not going to try.
I think if we want an answer to the question, we could just see how well Frankie climbs in here.
Oh, all right. I'll do it. I'll do it for the live. Oh, let's see. Oh, jeez. Hold on.
Yep, there you go.
Gotta do it.
You got it. Yeah, look at that.
Honestly, yeah, it's pretty tight.
Yeah, it's
I'm pretty
a
tall,
little
but
tight.
I would say it's not bad. Like, it's not uncomfortable. But it's not. I mean, again, you drive a caged vehicle, you expect to give up some things. So like, this isn't going to be like a stock vehicle. But I'm just probably a little tall for the setup. I will say that. But I can get in and out of it, and I could move it around. So I wouldn't say it's the end of the world. Now I got to get back out though. So
All right, so you heard it straight from the tall guy's mouth. It's not the worst thing in the world. Now we get to watch him come out.
Oh my gosh.
This is always the fun
I
part.
have to break my leg to get out of here.
Did you get
There he goes.
I've gotten in go-karts a little easier than that, but that's okay. What else?
Did you get a mile per gallon increase with the turbo? Do you know?
Would you or did you? Sorry.
They said, did you?
Did you?
They're asking.
Turbocharged stuff is, let's put it this way. The engine, when it's under partial load, or like say you take a stock engine and you turbocharge it, right? That engine's going to drive like a stock engine until you get it into boost if you don't change anything in the tune-up in that naturally aspirated or in vacuum range. So would you necessarily see a MPG increase? No. If you drive it around aggressively, you're actually probably going to see it go down because horsepower takes fuel. The more horsepower you make, the more fuel it takes. So not necessarily would you would probably see it if you took this engine the way it is right now, figured out what the MPG was, and then turbocharged it. Driving around partial throttle, it should be the same. It's not really going to change. You can do some things as far as the tune-up for the vehicle to try and improve that. I always tell people the best way to have better fuel economy is to have a quiet exhaust so you don't press the gas pedal as much. That's pretty much, I mean, I know it's not as fun, but if you want fuel economy, you kind of got to drive it like a baby. That's just kind of how it is. But yeah, you wouldn't really see an increase unless you went from like a large engine like this one to a small engine that was turbocharged. That's kind of the whole purpose. You've probably seen a lot of OE production cars going towards smaller power adder turbocharged engines basically. And the reason they do that is so that the engine can act like a small engine and have good thermal efficiency when it's under light load, and then you put boost on top of it and it makes a decent amount of power when you want to accelerate aggressively or whatever, when you want that power demand. So yeah, I wouldn't say it makes it better, but you can configure the engine to have better fuel economy and still make the power that you want. That's the best answer I can give.
Okay, well, I put the lights on the back hoop of the triple hoop instead of on the front hoop.
Because in the setup of the roll bar, that's where the holes are at. So these go in, there's certain holes drilled for these to go in certain places. And that hoop landed at the back because that's what had the double drilled holes for us to mount both of our kickers on either side. So understandably, yes, it would have made sense to have them a little closer to the front, but with the way this roll bar is set up, that's just where the mounts ended up landing.
Cool.
All right. This one doesn't have to do with Leadfoot, but you may be able to give some advice. I have a 1987 Bowtie V6 dry sump engine that is fresh but been in storage for years. Would you try to fire it up, or would you go through everything again and replace springs, etc., but rockers were removed?
Is this the same guy from last time?
Probably.
Oh, I think, okay. If this is the same person, if it's a dry sump engine, I'm assuming it's a race engine.
It's Lone Wrencher. I don't know if you remember.
I think okay. I think we talked about this before a little bit. So if it is a assuming it's a dry sump engine from the 80s, I'm going to assume that it's pretty much a race engine. And yes, before you start it up, I would check as much stuff as you can without taking it apart all the way. If you want to try and start it the way it is, I would, I would do compression tests. I would do leak down tests. I would do all the regular stuff, put new spark plugs in it, get fresh fuel. If it has a carburetor, go through the carburetor first and just see if there's any gunk in there, anything like that. Things that sit for a long time. The fuel's a lot better back then, so it's not as prevalent as it is now with things corroding and varnishing up, stuff like that. But still, probably go through some of that, depending on what it is and what you can find for it. And I would definitely inspect springs. If you have a way to check their pressure, I would definitely do that, or maybe just change them out. Springs are, especially in a race application, they are a consumable item. They do have a service life, and they especially don't like sitting long times or corroding. So if it's been in like a humid area, like somewhere down south or like the southeast or something like that, there's a fair chance that they've started to corrode, and that starts to basically eat away at the integrity of the spring and gives it a much higher chance of breaking. And if that happens, then you're going to be touching valves and pistons, and then you have a much bigger problem. So yeah, I would check as much as you can without taking the engine as apart as you want, I guess, if that's a good way to say it. I would check as much as you can, and yeah, if you're questioning it, I would replace it for sure.
All right, I only have one more question.
Sure.
If anybody else has any questions, drop them in the chat real quick, because this is the last one I have.
Yeah.
I'm curious about, where did you source your air intake system from, and any other details about it that is exactly what I'm needing at this point?
Okay.
Is that the intake on this?
We're going to assume it's for this.
All right.
Yeah.
I believe
So
so.
this intake is actually a fully custom setup that was done in here. So we went down to Frankie and Pat and stole that carburetor top hat, and then just got some adapters and some tubing that allowed us to route this down and come down into our custom built air box down here. Now, the air inlet itself is actually behind the valence panel here, so the air has a good chance to come up. There's no opportunity for the dirt and stuff to get up in there. The filter stays very well protected inside of there. Off-the-shelf options for something like that.
You could probably get like a universal air box, and then you just have to figure out mounting and plumbing it. And then, from there, like I said, it'd be similar to this setup where you just have to build something out of some 3-inch aluminum tube. And the carb hat is always the tricky one, getting for like a carburetor or a 4150 fuel injection unit. And that you can get a couple different ones. That's a Holley one I think we got from Summit Racing Equipment. And those have a nice entry and stuff like that. And they come out, I think it's 3.5-inch outlet, so that it's easy to find adapters and things like that. But yeah, it'd just be probably, for something like this, it'd probably be something you have to build for your application. But you might be able to find a universal air box that you could use for it.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of older stuff, you're going to run into issues trying to find things like that, because older engines, especially anything that would have come with, a carburetor on it, they wouldn't have a conventional air intake system that we see today with, the air box and the ducting and all of that. Like, this originally did have it with that 300 because it was fuel injected, but if we would have taken it back a few years and went back to the carbureted versions of these, then it wouldn't have had that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say there's probably not a whole lot of direct fit options out there for stuff like this.
Probably not.
I mean, just like anything else, it's going to require a little bit of research. In our case, we ended up doing it custom just because we had the ability to do that with all the room we had, and this is what ended up fitting the best in the amount of space we were working with.
Yeah, and I would say, I think we've talked about this before, forums are your best friend, because I guarantee there's a forum somewhere for 460 F-150 guys, and you can see what other people have done, as well, and see if that option might work better for you or whatever. You can get some ideas at least, and then do some research and go from there. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else?
Yeah.
Any come in?
Is that it?
All right. Well.
All right. Well, it's been a ton of fun. Good having you guys here with us today. But Frankie, I'm tired of hearing you talk about it. It's time for you to get in and take this thing for a drive. I'll go find the hood pins.
I don't think I fit. I think you should drive it.
You'll figure it out. Where's that hood pin at? Let's go.
It's almost to an unsafe level. I don't want to drive it anymore. I'm good.
Safety, schmafety. We'll be fine.
All right. I think that's where we're going to wrap it, though. So if you guys have any other questions about the episode that just aired, make sure you go check out the full build for Leadfoot. It's on the Dirt and Trails YouTube channel now. And if you have any questions about this or any other projects you're working on, make sure you put them in the comments section, and we'll see if we can get back to them. All right?
All right, well, hop in.
It took me so long to get into it. don't think
Now,
I'd want
getting
to
out is the
again.
hard part. I think you can get back in.
I think you should. You're short. Get in there.
All right.
Let me open
We'll
the
see you
door.
guys next week.
I didn't know there was a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,